The rain hammered against our apartment windows like it had a personal vendetta against the glass. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the half-empty coffee pot, wondering how it was possible to feel so alone in a city of millions. It was one of those gray November afternoons in Seattle that made you question every life decision that had brought you to the Pacific Northwest. "Adrian, you home?" Lucas's voice echoed from the front door, accompanied by the sound of keys clattering onto the entry table and wet footsteps on hardwood.
"Hey, kitchen,"
I called back, pouring myself another cup of coffee I definitely didn't need. My hands were already shaking, whether from caffeine or the anxiety that had become my constant companion. I couldn't tell anymore. Lucas appeared in the doorway, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, rainwater dripping from his jacket onto the floor. He looked like he'd swum home rather than taken the bus. But even drenched and disheveled, there was something about Lucas that commanded attention. Maybe it was the way his brown eyes seemed to hold entire conversations before he spoke, or how his presence could fill a room without him trying.
"Oh, dude."
"It's apocalyptic out there," he said, shrugging off his jacket and hanging it on the back of a chair. I saw a guy selling tickets to an arc. I managed a small smile. Lucas had this way of making jokes that were so stupid they circled back to being funny. It was one of the things I'd appreciated about him since we'd become roommates. 8 months ago, his ability to lighten the mood without even trying. "Coffee?" I offered, already reaching for a clean mug. "Your lifesaver." He moved closer, and I caught the scent of rain in that cologne he wore, something woodsy and warm that I'd secretly started associating with home. "Rough day?" I handed him the mug, careful not to let our fingers touch. Lately, I'd been hyper-aware of every interaction between us. Every accidental brush of hands, every moment our eyes met for a second too long. It was exhausting. "Just the usual existential dread," I said, attempting levity. 28 years old, working a job I'm not passionate about, single for the 3rd year running, living with a roommate because I can't afford my own place in this overpriced city. You know, the dream. Lucas leaned against the counter, studying me with an intensity that made my heart skip. "That's not the dream. If it is, I want a refund." He laughed, and the sound did something to my chest, made it feel tight and expansive at the same time. I'd been trying not to notice how much I looked forward to moments like this, when it was just the two of us, talking about nothing and everything, trying not to notice how my day felt incomplete until Lucas walked through that door, trying not to notice that somewhere along the way, I'd developed feelings for my straight roommate because Lucas was straight. He'd dated women the entire time I'd known him. Currently, he was seeing someone named Melissa, marketing consultant, with perfect hair and an impressive wine collection. They'd been together for 3 months, and every time she came over, I found reasons to be elsewhere. "So, listen," Lucas said, setting down his mug with a carefulness that immediately put me on alert. "I need to talk to you about something." My stomach dropped. This was it. He was moving out, or Melissa was moving in, or he'd somehow figured out that I spent way too much time thinking about him and was about to have the world's most awkward conversation about boundaries.
Okay,"
I said slowly. Gripping my own mug like it was a life preserver, Lucas ran a hand through his wet hair, looking uncharacteristically nervous. In the 8 months we'd lived together, I'd seen Lucas confident, funny, tired, frustrated, and happy, but rarely nervous. I broke up with Melissa. Whatever I'd been expecting, it wasn't that. "What? When?" 3 days ago, he met my eyes. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you." "Why would you need to figure out how to tell me?" "Lucas, I'm sorry. Are you okay?" He laughed, but it sounded strange, almost bitter. "Am I okay?" Adrian stopped, shook his head. I ended it because I realized I was with her for completely the wrong reasons. I waited, not trusting myself to speak. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. I was with her because it was easy, because it was expected, because ... He set down his mug and crossed his arms. A defensive gesture I recognized from the few times I'd seen him genuinely vulnerable, because I was trying to convince myself of something that wasn't true. My heart was pounding now, so loud I was sure he could hear it. Lucas, what are you saying? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Maybe I had, and I'd been too afraid to acknowledge it. I'm saying that for the past few months, I've been lying to myself. To Melissa? To you? He took a breath. I'm saying that I think about you way more than a roommate should. That I find excuses to be home when I know you'll be here. That I notice things like how you always add exactly 3 sugars to your coffee, and how you pace when you're on the phone with your mom, and how your eyes do this thing where they light up when you talk about graphic novels. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't do anything but stare at him as he continued. I'm saying that I've spent 29 years assuming I knew exactly who I was, and then I met you, and suddenly everything I thought I understood about myself got turned upside down. The silence that followed felt alive, crackling with possibility and terror in equal measure. Are you? My voice came out hoarse. I cleared my throat. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Lucas moved closer, close enough that I could see the water droplets still clinging to his eyelashes. Could feel the heat radiating from his body, despite his rain-soaked clothes. I don't know what I am, Adrian. I don't have labels figured out, and I'm honestly terrified right now. His voice dropped lower. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel more myself than I ever have. I know that I think about kissing you about 100 times a day. I know that living with you and pretending I don't want more has been the hardest thing I've ever done. My mug slipped from my fingers. It didn't break, landed in the sink with a clatter, but neither of us looked away from each other. Say something, Lucas whispered. Please say something, because I'm dying here. Words failed me. How could I explain that I'd spent months convincing myself these feelings were one-sided? That I'd practiced 100 different ways to move on, to get over him, to accept that we'd only ever be friends. That hearing him say these things felt like someone had rewritten reality. I need to know, Lucas said, and there was a vulnerability in his voice that broke something open inside me. Is there any chance you feel the same way? Lucas. His name came out like a prayer. I've been falling for you since the day you brought me soup when I had the flu. Since you stayed up until 3 in the morning helping me meet a deadline. Since I realized that the sound of your key in the door was the best part of my day. His eyes widened. Really? Really, I let out a shaky laugh. I've been trying so hard not to feel this way. You were dating Melissa? You were straight. I was your roommate. It was impossible. Impossible, he repeated, and suddenly he was smiling, that real, unguarded smile I'd only seen a handful of times. Adrian, the only impossible thing was trying not to fall for you. He reached out, hesitant, giving me every chance to pull away. His fingers brushed my cheek, and I leaned into the touch like I'd been waiting my whole life for it. Can I? He started. Yes, I breathed, not even letting him finish the question. Lucas closed the distance between us. And then his lips were on mine, soft and questioning and perfect. The kiss was gentle at first, almost tentative, both of us learning this new language we'd created. His hand came up to cup the back of my neck, and I gripped the front of his still damp shirt, pulling him closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucas rested his forehead against mine. I didn't see this coming, he murmured. Any of this? Me neither, I admitted. I'm kind of freaking out. Is good freaking out or bad freaking out? I pulled back just enough to see his face, the hope and fear and wonder all mixed together in his expression. The best freaking out? He grinned. And then we were kissing again, deeper this time, months of suppressed feelings pouring out in every touch. His hands tangled in my hair, and I mapped the planes of his back through his shirt, memorizing every detail of this moment. Outside, the rain continued its assault on Seattle. But inside our small kitchen, with Lucas's arms around me and the taste of him on my lips, I felt like I'd finally come home. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were smiling like idiots. So, Lucas said, his voice rough, what do we do now? It was the question, wasn't it? The one that could complicate everything or make everything make sense. I don't know, I admitted. This is new for you? For both of us, really. My last relationship was 2 years ago, and I've never lived with someone I was dating. I've never dated a guy, Lucas added. or questioned my sexuality, or felt this scared and excited at the same time. I took his hand, intertwining our fingers. It felt natural, like we'd been doing it forever. We should probably talk about this. Really talk? You should, he agreed. But maybe not right now? Right now, I just want to... He paused, looking uncertain. Is it okay if I just want to be close to you? Without overthinking everything? My heart melted. Yeah, that's more than okay. We moved to the living room, to the worn couch that had come with the apartment and that we'd sworn we'd replace but never did. Lucas pulled me down beside him, and I settled into his arms like I'd been made to fit there. He was still damp from the rain, but I didn't care. Tell me something, Lucas said softly, his fingers tracing absent patterns on my shoulder. When did you know that you had feelings for me? I thought back, trying to pinpoint the exact moment. There wasn't really one moment. It was a slow thing. But I think... Remember that night we stayed up watching that terrible sci-fi marathon? The one with the rubber aliens and the incomprehensible plot? That's the one. You fell asleep halfway through the third movie, and I just... looked at you. And I thought about how comfortable I felt. How right it felt to have you there. And I realized that what I was feeling wasn't just friendship anymore. Lucas was quiet for a moment. That was 4 months ago. Yeah, Adrian, I'm sorry. If I'd known if, I'd figured myself out sooner, don't. I turned to face him. Don't apologize for taking time to understand yourself. That's not something you rush. He searched my face. You're remarkable, you know that? I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I'm really not. You are. You're patient and kind and talented and... He stopped, shaking his head with a smile. I could keep going, but your ego might not fit in the apartment anymore. I laughed, shoving him lightly. Shut up. Make me, he challenged, and there was something playful and heated in his voice that made my breath catch. So I did. I kissed him again, slower this time, taking my time to explore and savor. Lucas made a sound low in his throat that shot straight through me, and his hands tightened on my waist. Adrian, he breathed between kisses. We should slow down. Do you want to slow down? I asked against his lips.
No.
He admitted. But I also don't want to mess this up by moving too fast. This matters too much. I pulled back, my heart full. Okay, we'll take it slow. Thank you. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Can I ask you something else? Anything. What are you most scared of? About this, I mean... The question caught me off guard with its honesty. I took a moment to really consider it. I'm scared that this is too good to be true, I finally said. That I'll wake up and it'll have been a dream. Or that something will happen and we'll lose what we have, both the relationship and the friendship. You're not just... Lucas, you're one of the most important people in my life. The thought of losing you terrifies me. You won't lose me, Lucas said firmly. Whatever happens, wherever this goes, you won't lose me. I promise you that. You can't promise that. Watch me. He tilted my chin up, making me meet his eyes. Adrian Chen, I promise that even if this somehow doesn't work out, which I don't think will happen, but even if I will always care about you, you will always matter to me. Okay? Tears pricked at my eyes. Okay, your turn. What are you most scared of? Lucas was quiet for a long moment, his hand still gently holding my chin. I'm scared I won't be good at this. That I won't know how to be what you need because I've never done this before. I'm scared of disappointing you, Lucas. And I'm scared of what other people will think, he continued, his voice dropping. I know that shouldn't matter. I know I should just be confident and not care about anyone's opinion but ours. But I'm scared of telling my family. Of being different than what people expected. Of facing judgment or losing people. I took his face in my hands. Those fears are valid. All of them. And I won't tell you they're unfounded. Because honestly, some of those things might happen. Coming out, figuring out your identity, it's not always easy. But Lucas, I waited until he met my eyes. You don't have to figure it all out right now. You don't have to have labels or explanations or perfect confidence. You just have to be honest with yourself. The rest will come. What if I'm not gay? He asked quietly. What if I might don't know something else? What if the only person I feel this way about is you? Then that's okay too. You could be bisexual, pansexual, queer, or maybe you don't connect with any label at all. The point is, it doesn't matter what we call it. What matters is what's real between us. What's real between us, he repeated, a small smile forming. I like the sound of that. We stayed like that for a while, wrapped in each other, talking about everything and nothing. About fears and hopes, about what this might mean for our living situation, about whether we should tell our friends right away or take some time to figure things out privately first. Eventually, Lucas's stomach growled loudly, breaking the intimate atmosphere and making us both laugh. I guess we should probably eat something, I said, or we could order pizza and not move from this couch. Lucas suggested. You read my mind. As Lucas pulled out his phone to order food, I leaned back and watched him. The way he bit his lip when concentrating on the screen. The way his hair was finally starting to dry, curling slightly at the ends. The way he absently reached for my hand while he talked to the pizza place, like touching me was already becoming second nature. 3 hours ago, I'd been standing in this apartment feeling lost and alone. Now, everything had changed. The same rain was falling outside. The same coffee pot sat on the counter. The same furniture surrounded us, but it was all different now, colored by possibility and promise. They said 45 minutes, Lucas announced, tossing his phone aside. What should we do until then? I pulled him closer. I have a few ideas. His eyes darkened with interest. Yeah, but they all involve this couch. You. And finding out exactly how much kissing we can fit into 45 minutes. Challenge accepted, Lucas murmured. And then his lips were on mine again, and I stopped thinking about anything except the miracle of this moment. This person, this unexpected turn my life had taken. Outside, the Seattle rain continued to fall. Inside, wrapped in Lucas's arms with his heartbeat steady beneath my palm. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt hope. The morning after that first kiss. I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bedroom. Window a rare occurrence in Seattle November and the smell of coffee brewing. For a blissful moment, I just lay there replaying the previous evening. The pizza had arrived eventually, and we'd eaten it while half watching a movie, too distracted by each other to follow the plot. We talked until almost midnight, learning to navigate this new dynamic. And then, Lucas had kissed me goodnight at my bedroom door, with a sweetness that had made my knees weak. I found him in the kitchen, looking unfairly attractive in sweatpants and a faded university t-shirt, his hair still messy from sleep. He turned when he heard me, and the smile that lit up his face made my chest tight. Morning, he said, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the one with the graphic novel quote that most people didn't recognize. Morning. I accepted the mug, and when our fingers brushed, neither of us pulled away. You're up early, couldn't sleep? He leaned against the counter, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Kept thinking about yesterday, making sure it really happened. It happened, I confirmed, moving closer. Want me to prove it? Please. I kissed him softly, tasting coffee and possibility. He sighed into it, his free hand coming up to rest on my hip. Definitely happened, he murmured when we broke apart. We spent that Sunday in a bubble of our own making. Lucas had the day off from his job at the architecture firm, and I'd finished my freelance design projects the day before. We made breakfast together, bumping into each other in the small kitchen and stealing kisses between flipping pancakes. We watched movies with Lucas's head in my lap, my fingers running through his hair. We talked about everything: our childhoods, our dreams, our fears, to the mundane details of life that suddenly felt important when shared with someone who mattered. It was perfect. Almost too perfect, and in the back of my mind, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on Monday evening. I was working at my desk when I heard Lucas come home, his footsteps heavier than usual. He appeared in my doorway looking exhausted, his tie loosened and his expression troubled. "Hey," I said, immediately concerned. "You okay? Can we talk?" Those 3 words sent a spike of anxiety through me. Of course. We sat on the couch, the same one where everything had changed 2 days ago. But this time there was distance between us. Lucas rubbed his face, and I waited, my heart pounding. I told my best friend today, he finally said, Marcus. From college. Okay. How did he react? He was surprised. Asked a lot of questions. Some of them weren't great. Lucas looked at his hands. He asked if I was sure I wasn't just confused. If maybe I was just lonely and got too attached to my roommate. He said maybe I should talk to someone before making any big decisions. The words stung, even though they weren't directed at me. What did you say? I told him I wasn't confused. That I knew what I felt. But Adrian finally met my eyes. After I hung up, I started thinking, what if he's right? What if I am just confused? What if I'm having some kind of quarter-life crisis and I'm dragging you into it? Lucas, do you feel confused? When you're with me, do you feel like you're pretending or forcing something? No, that's the thing, it feels right. But he stopped, frustrated. Everyone I know thinks they know who I am. My family, my friends, my coworkers. I've dated women my entire adult life, and now I'm supposed to tell them all that actually I've been missing something? That I've spent years not fully understanding myself. I chose my words carefully. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your journey of self-discovery. People change. People learn new things about themselves. That's not a crisis, it's growth. But what if I hurt you while I'm figuring it out? What if 3 months from now I realize I made a mistake, and you've invested all this time and emotion and stop? I moved closer, taking his hand. Lucas, I'm going into this with my eyes open. Yes, there's a risk. There's always a risk when you care about someone. But I'd rather take that risk with you than play it safe and wonder what if for the rest of my life. You're too good for me, he said quietly. That's not true. But I am choosing to trust what we have. The question is, are you? He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. I want to. God, Adrian, I want to so badly. But I'm terrified. Then be terrified. Feel what you're feeling. But don't run from this because you're scared. Don't let one friend's skepticism make you doubt what you know in your heart. What if I'm not brave enough? You are. You told me how you felt, even though you were scared. You ended a relationship that wasn't right for you. You're questioning things you've believed about yourself your entire life. Lucas, that's incredibly brave. He pulled me closer, burying his face in my shoulder. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. You won't. We'll figure it out together. We stayed like that, until Lucas's breathing evened out and some of the tension left his body. But as I held him, couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus's words had planted seeds of doubt that wouldn't be easily uprooted. The next 2 weeks were a study in contrasts. In private, things between Lucas and me deepened. We fell into a rhythm cooking together, sharing our days, learning each other's boundaries and preferences. We hadn't taken things further physically than kissing. Both of us understanding that Lucas needed time to adjust to this new reality. And the kissing. God, the kissing was enough to make me dizzy. Every night, we'd end up on the couch or in one of our doorways, reluctant to part, stealing a few more moments together. But in public, Lucas struggled. We'd gone out for coffee one Saturday, when a couple of his coworkers had shown up. He'd introduced me as his roommate without missing a beat. I understood he wasn't ready, and that was okay. But it still stung. I'm sorry, he'd said later, back at the apartment. I wasn't prepared to have that conversation in the middle of a coffee shop. It's okay. I get it. You're upset, though. I'm not upset. I'm just adjusting to. This is new for both of us, remember? He'd kissed me then, soft and apologetic, and I'd let it soothe the small hurt. But the incidents piled up. His mom had called one evening asking about Melissa, and Lucas had said they'd broken up, but hadn't mentioned why, or that he was seeing anyone else. He'd deleted a photo I'd posted on Instagram of us making dinner because he wasn't ready for people to ask questions. He'd tensed up when I'd reached for his hand while we were walking through a less crowded part of the neighborhood. I told myself to be patient, that he was dealing with a lot, that coming out, or even just figuring out where he stood was a process, not an event. But it was hard to be the secret, even when I understood why I needed to be one. Things came to a head on a Friday night. 3 weeks after that first kiss. Lucas's brother had called earlier, and I'd overheard part of the conversation from my room. Yeah, I'm single right now. No, not really looking. Just focusing on work. You know me, never been good at being alone for long. I'll probably start dating again soon. Each word had felt like a small knife. When he'd hung up, I'd stayed in my room, needing space to process. But eventually, Lucas had knocked on my door. Adrian. Can I come in? It's open. He'd sat on my bed, looking miserable. You heard, yeah? I'm sorry. I couldn't tell him. Not over the phone. Not when I haven't even told my parents yet. And he was being annoying about me being single, and I just wanted him to drop it. I'd sat up, choosing my words carefully. Lucas, I understand that coming out is hard. I'm not asking you to make some grand announcement to your whole family, but I need to know, are you ashamed of this? Of us? What? No? Adrian, no, because it feels like you're hiding me. And I know you need time, and I want to give you that, but I also need to protect myself. I've been the secret before, and it didn't end well. Tell me, Lucas had said softly. About before, I had. I'd told him about David, my ex, who'd been closeted and terrified, and had kept me hidden for over a year. How I'd convinced myself it was fine, that love was enough. That it didn't matter if we couldn't hold hands in public or attend events together. How it had slowly eroded my self-worth until I'd barely recognized myself. How David had eventually left me for a woman he could be open about because the pressure of hiding had been too much. I can't do that again, I'd finished. I can't be someone's secret indefinitely. I need to know that we're heading somewhere, that eventually we'll be able to exist openly. I'm not asking for tomorrow or next week or even next month, but I need to know it's possible. Lucas had taken my hands, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Adrian, you're not my secret. You're not David, and I'm not him. I'm just time figuring out how to be honest with my family about something I'm still processing myself. But I want this. And yes, I want us to be able to be open. I just need ... time. How much time? I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have a timeline. But I promise you, I'm working on it. I've been reading things, talking to a therapist, trying to understand myself better. This isn't about shame. It's about fear and adjustment, and he'd broken off, frustrated. I know that's not enough. I know you deserve better. I don't want better. I want you. But I also need to know that you want me enough to do the hard things eventually. I do. God, Adrian, I do. Just ... Please don't give up on me yet. We'd worked through it that night, setting some boundaries and expectations. Lucas had promised to tell his parents within the next month. He'd agreed to stop hiding our relationship on social media, even if he wasn't ready to explicitly announce it. And he'd committed to couples therapy, or whatever the equivalent was for people figuring things out in return. I'd promised to be patient, to communicate when I was struggling. To remember that his journey wasn't about me. We'd sealed the promises with kisses that turned heated. Lucas pressing me back into the pillows, his body a welcome weight above me. We'd stopped before things went too far, both of us wanting that first time to be right. Not born out of anxiety and reassurance, but we'd held each other through the night. And in the morning, things had felt more solid. The weekend after that conversation, Lucas suggested we take a trip, just us. Somewhere we can be completely ourselves, without worrying about running into anyone we know. We'd driven to a small coastal town 2 hours from Seattle. Checking into a bed and breakfast with a view of the ocean, the woman who ran it had assumed we were a couple and shown us to a room with one bed, and Lucas hadn't corrected her. He'd just squeezed my hand and smiled. Those 2 days were a revelation. We'd walked on the beach, Lucas's hand securely in mine. We'd eaten at local restaurants and shared meals without any guardedness. We'd kissed in public, just small pecks, nothing dramatic. But the freedom of it had made my heart soar. On our last evening, we'd returned to our room to find a bottle of wine and a note from the innkeeper. For a lovely couple, enjoy the sunset. Lucas had read it, looked at me, and something had shifted in his expression. I'm ready, he'd said quietly. For what? For whatever comes next. With you. We'd opened the wine, and as the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in oranges and purples, we'd talked about the future. About what we wanted individually and together. About fears and hopes and dreams. And later, as the room darkened, and the wine made us both loose and honest, Lucas had kissed me with an intention that was new. "I want you," he'd murmured against my lips. "Is that okay? Are you ready?" My answer had been to pull him closer, to show him with my hands and mouth and body exactly how ready I was. We'd taken our time, learning each other slowly. Lucas had been nervous at first, uncertain. But as we'd explored and discovered what made each other gasp and moan, he'd grown more confident. There was something profound about being each other's choice, about Lucas trusting me with this vulnerable, intimate part of himself he was still learning. Afterward, lying tangled together in sheets that smelled like ocean air and us, Lucas had traced patterns on my chest and said, "I'm falling in love with you. I might have already fallen. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore." I'd turned his face toward mine, needing him to see the truth in my eyes. "I'm in love with you too. I think I have been for a while." He'd kissed me then, soft and deep, and in that moment, everything else, the complications, the fears, the uncertainties about the future, had faded away. There was just us, just this. Just the incredible gift of finding someone who saw you and chose you anyway. On the drive home Sunday evening, Lucas had held my hand the entire way, even when we hit traffic and had to sit still. He hadn't let go even when other drivers might see. It was a small thing, maybe, but it felt monumental. "I'm going to tell my parents next weekend," he'd said as we pulled into our apartment complex. "I'd like you to be there with me, if you're willing. Not to, I don't know, perform or prove anything, just to be there. As support. Are you sure you're ready?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway. Because you were right, you need to do the hard things. And because I meant what I said. I'm in love with you, and I don't want to hide that anymore." I'd kissed him there in the car, in full view of our neighbors and anyone passing by, and he'd kissed me back without hesitation. "We've got this," I'd said. Yeah, Lucas had agreed, his forehead resting against mine. "We do." The week leading up to meeting Lucas's parents felt like the longest of my life. Lucas was a bundle of nerves, swinging between determination and panic. I did my best to be supportive without being overbearing, reminding him that whatever happened, we'd face it together. On Friday afternoon, we made the 2-hour drive to his parents' house in Tacoma. Lucas's hand shook slightly as he turned onto their street, a quiet suburban neighborhood with well-maintained lawns and houses that all looked vaguely similar. "You can turn around," I said quietly. "If you're not ready, I'm ready." He pulled into the driveway of a blue house with white trim. Or at least, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Lucas's mom answered the door, a petite woman with the same warm brown eyes as her son. She pulled Lucas into a hug, then turned to me with a welcoming smile. "You must be Adrian. Lucas has mentioned his roommate a few times. Come in, come in." His dad appeared from the living room, tall and broad-shouldered, graying at the temples. He shook my hand firmly, his grip strong but not aggressive. "Good to meet you. Lucas says you're a graphic designer." "Yes, sir. Freelance, mostly. None of that's her business." "I'm Tom." We settled in the living room, and Lucas's mom, called me Patricia, please, brought out coffee and homemade cookies. The conversation flowed easily at first. They asked about my work, about how Lucas and I had become roommates, about life in Seattle. They were warm and genuine, and I found myself relaxing slightly, but I could feel Lucas's tension mounting. He kept glancing at me, at his parents, at the door like he was calculating escape routes. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, he set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. "Dad, I asked to come over this weekend because I need to talk to you about something important." The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Patricia sat, continued 939 a mup straighter, and Tom's expression grew more serious. "What is it, son? Is everything okay?" Lucas took a deep breath. I wanted to reach for his hand, but wasn't sure if that would help or hurt in this moment. So I stayed still, trying to radiate support through my presence alone. "Everything's okay. Actually, everything's better than okay. But I need to tell you something I've been figuring out about myself." He paused, gathering courage. I've spent the last few months realizing that I'm not straight. I'm still working out the exact labels, but I know that I'm attracted to more than just women. And I wanted you to hear it from me in person, because you matter to me. The silence that followed felt endless. Patricia's hand went to her mouth, her eyes wide. Tom's expression was unreadable. Is this Patricia started? Stopped? Tried again? Is this because of a breakup? Sometimes when we're hurt, we can get confused. I'm not confused. Mom, I broke up with Melissa because I realized I was with her for the wrong reasons, because I was pretending to be someone I'm not. But you've always dated women, Tom said, his voice careful. There was never any indication, because I didn't know, Lucas said simply. Or maybe I knew, but I was pushing it down. Either way, I'm not pushing it down anymore. I'm being honest about who I am. Tricia's eyes were filling with tears. I just sigh, don't understand. Did something happen to you? Did someone, Mom? No? Nobody did anything to me. I just met someone who helped me see myself more clearly. Lucas finally looked at me, and there was so much in his gaze, love and fear and determination. I'm dating Adrian. He's not just my roommate. He's my partner, and I love him. The words hung in the air. Patricia's tears spilled over, and she pressed a hand to her chest. Tom stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. My heart was breaking for Lucas, for the courage it had taken to say those words, and the pain of seeing his mother cry. I wanted to comfort him, to defend him, but I knew this moment needed to be his. I know this is a lot, Lucas continued, his voice steadier than I expected. I know you didn't see this coming and that you probably have a lot of questions and feelings, but I need you to know that this is real. This isn't a phase or confusion or rebellion. This is me being honest for maybe the first time in my life about what I want and who I am. Tom turned from the window. And what about kids? Marriage? The life we thought you'd have? I can still have all those things if I want them, Lucas said. Just maybe not in the exact package you imagined. But Dad, when have I ever done exactly what was expected? I studied architecture instead of business. I moved to Seattle instead of staying in Tacoma. I've always followed my own path. That's different, Patricia said, her voice thick with tears. Those were career choices. This is your life, your identity. Exactly, Lucas said gently. It's my life, and I get to decide how I live it. Tom moved back to the couch, sitting heavily. He looked at me directly for the first time since Lucas's revelation. Adrian, did you seduce my son? Turn him into something he wasn't? The accusations stung, but I kept my voice calm. No, sir. Tom, I didn't seduce anyone or turn anyone into anything. If anything, Lucas pursued me. I spent months thinking my feelings were one-sided because he was dating women. This wasn't my doing. It was something Lucas discovered about himself. You're okay with that? Patricia asked, her tone sharp. With him being confused and figuring things out while you're involved? He's not confused. And yes, I'm okay with being with someone while they're on a journey of self-discovery. We all are in one way or another. I looked at Lucas, letting him see my certainty. I love your son. I care about his happiness more than anything. If he decided tomorrow that this wasn't right for him, I'd be heartbroken, but I'd support him. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that he's being brave enough to be himself. Silence fell again. Lucas reached for my hand, and this time I took it, our fingers interlacing. His parents both noticed, and I saw Patricia's face crumple slightly. I need some time, she said finally. It's a lot. I need to process, okay, Lucas said. Take the time you need. But Mom, Dad, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm asking for your understanding, for your love. But if I can't have that, I'll be okay, because I'm choosing to be true to myself. Tom cleared his throat. You're our son. We love you. That hasn't changed and won't change. But your mother's right, we need time to adjust to this new reality. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. It was something in between, which I supposed was the best we could hope for in this moment. We stayed for another hour. The conversation stilted and uncomfortable. Patricia asked careful questions about how long we'd been together. whether we'd told other people how Lucas's friends had reacted. Tom mostly stayed quiet, occasionally interjecting with practical concerns that barely masked his emotional turmoil. As we prepared to leave, Tricia hugged Lucas tightly. "I do love you," she whispered, loud enough for me to hear. "I just need some time. I know, Mom. I love you too." The drive home was quiet. Lucas stared out the window, his hand still in mine, processing everything that had happened. We were almost back to Seattle when he finally spoke. "That could have gone worse." "It could have," I agreed. "But it also could have gone better. They'll come around. I hope." He turned to look at me. "I'm sorry if any of that was hard for you to hear. My dad's accusation was out of line." "It's okay." He's scared and trying to make sense of something that challenges his worldview. "I've been through worse. Shouldn't have to go through any of it." Lucas lifted our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "Thank you for being there. For defending us. For loving me, even when it's complicated." "Always," I said simply. The weeks that followed were an adjustment for everyone. Lucas's parents didn't call for a while, and when they finally did, conversations were brief and surface level. Lucas's brother took the news better, surprising us both with his acceptance and an offer to grab drinks and meet this guy who's got my brother so tied up in knots. Lucas came out to more of his friends, each conversation building his confidence. Some were supportive immediately. Others needed time. A few faded away, and while each loss hurt, Lucas handled it with more grace than I'd expected. People who matter are sticking around. He said one night after a difficult phone call with an old college friend who'd said some hurtful things, "And the people who don't accept me? Maybe they never really knew me anyway." At work, Lucas came out to his boss and a few close colleagues. The architecture firm turned out to be more progressive than he'd feared, and suddenly he wasn't hiding anymore. He could mention me in casual conversation, could have my photo on his desk, could be fully himself in all areas of his life. One evening, about 2 months after coming out to his parents, Lucas got a call from Patricia. I was in the kitchen when he answered, but I could hear his side of the conversation. "Hi, Mom." "Yeah, we're both good." "Really? Are you sure?" "That would be amazing. ... Okay, I'll ask him." "Mom, thank you. I love you too." He came into the kitchen with tears in his eyes and a smile on his face. "Mom and Dad want to have us both over for dinner. A proper dinner, where they get to know you as my partner, not just my roommate. She said she's sorry it took so long, but she wants to try." I pulled him into my arms, feeling his relief and joy radiating through his body. "That's wonderful, Lucas. She's trying. They're both trying. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Progress is all we can ask for." The dinner 2 weeks later wasn't without its awkward moments, but Patricia made an effort to ask me about my family, my interests, my dreams. Tom engaged Lucas in a conversation about a building project, and I watched the ease between them return gradually. At one point, Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she said softly, "for making my son happy. I can see that he is, happier than I've seen him in years." My throat tightened. "He makes me happy too. That's all a mother can hope for, really. That her child finds someone who sees them and loves them for exactly who they are." On a Saturday in late January, Lucas and I were cleaning the apartment, a deeply unromantic activity that had somehow become one of my favorite ways to spend time with him. We had music playing, and Lucas was singing off-key while doing dishes, when he suddenly stopped and turned to me. "Move in with me," he said. I looked around our apartment in confusion. "I already live with you?" He laughed. "No, yes, technically. But we each have our own rooms. I want you to move into my room, or I can move into yours. Or we can pick one together and make it ours. I don't want to keep sleeping separately. I want to wake up next to you every morning." My heart swelled. "You're sure? That's a big step."
"I'm sure."
"Adrian, in the last 4 months, you've become the most important person in my life. You've been patient while I figured things out, supportive when I needed it, honest when I needed that instead. You've made me braver and better. I can't imagine my life without you in it. So yes, I'm sure. I want to share a room, share a life, share everything." I crossed to him, pulling him close despite his soapy hands. Okay, 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 let's share everything. He kissed me, deep and sweet, the taste of forever on his lips. When we broke apart, both of us grinning like idiots, he rested his forehead against mine. I love you, Adrian Chen. I didn't see this coming, any of it. But I'm so glad I didn't. I love you too. And Lucas? I'm glad you surprised me. Best surprise of my life. We spent the rest of the day rearranging furniture and combining our spaces, turning 2 separate rooms into one shared sanctuary. As the sun set and we collapsed onto our bed, not his or mine, but ours surrounded by a chaotic mix of both our belongings, Lucas pulled me close. What are you thinking about? He asked, tracing lazy patterns on my arm. How different my life looks from a year ago. How lost I felt. How I never imagined I'd end up here with you this happy. Best roommate situation ever. He teased the absolute best. Outside, Seattle's winter rain began to fall, the same rain that had been falling that November afternoon when everything changed. But now, wrapped in Lucas's arms in our shared bed, it sounded like music, like possibility. Like home, we'd have more challenges ahead, I knew. More conversations with family, more moments of doubt, more adjustments as we continued to build our life together. But we'd face them the same way we'd faced everything else together, with honesty and love. The kind of courage that comes from being truly seen. Lucas's breathing evened out as he drifted off to sleep, his arm heavy and warm around my waist. I pressed a kiss to his shoulder, breathing in the scent of him, and let contentment wash over me. I'd spent so long thinking love would be a grand gesture, something obvious and unmistakable from the start. But the truth was more beautiful than that. Love had been quiet moments in the kitchen, shared laughter over terrible movies, awkward conversations and brave vulnerabilities. It had been choosing each other over and over in 1,000 small ways. It had been my roommate surprising me in the best possible way, and I definitely hadn't seen it coming. But I was so glad I hadn't looked away. Epilogue 6 months later. Are you nervous? I asked, adjusting Lucas's collar for the 3rd time. Terrified, he admitted, but in a good way. We were standing outside a community center in Capitol Hill, about to go inside for a LGBTQ+ young professionals mixer. Lucas had suggested it a few weeks ago, saying he wanted to be more connected to the community, to meet people who understood the journey he was on. We can leave whenever you want, I reminded him. He took my hand, squeezing gently. I know, but I don't want to. I want to be here, with you, as ourselves. Inside, the space was filled with people of all ages, genders, and expressions. A couple near the refreshments table had matching rainbow pins. A group in the corner was laughing at someone's story. Music played softly in the background, creating an atmosphere of welcome and belonging. As we entered, a few people looked up, offering friendly smiles. Nobody stared. Nobody judged. We were just another couple among many, and the normalcy of it made my chest tight with emotion. This okay? Lucas murmured, his arms sliding around my waist. More than okay. We mingled and met people, some who'd been out for decades, others who were just beginning their journeys. Lucas shared his story a few times, and each telling seemed to make him more comfortable in his own skin. He was finding his place, his community, his voice. Later, we ended up on the small patio outside, needing a break from the noise. The Seattle summer evening was warm, the sky just beginning to darken. Thank you, Lucas said suddenly. For what? For being patient with me. For believing in us when I was still figuring things out. For loving me through all the messy parts. I pulled him closer, pressing a kiss to his temple. Lucas, loving you even the messy parts has been the easiest thing I've ever done. He turned his head, capturing my lips in a kiss that was tender and deep and filled with promise. When we broke apart, both of us smiling, I saw our future stretching out before us, imperfect and real and beautiful. Ready to go back inside? He asked. With you? Always. As we walked back into the community center, hand in hand. I thought about that rainy November afternoon that had changed everything. About how sometimes the best surprises are the ones hiding in plain sight. About how love doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet and gradual and built on a foundation of friendship and trust.